I always believed our marriage was built on mutual respect and understanding. For 5 years, I prided myself on being its foundation, managing our finances, maintaining our home, planning for our future. I shouldered the extra weight without complaint because I loved ensuring everything ran smoothly. That illusion shattered last Saturday at a neighborhood barbecue. The evening was lively, drinks flowing as laughter filled the air. I was at the grill, flipping burgers, when my wife's voice cut through the noise. "Oh, he never lasts long enough," she announced, her tone dripping with mockery. "His stamina is, well, let's just say I'm always left wanting more." Laughter erupted around her. I froze, spatula in hand, as humiliation burned through me. This wasn't just a joke. It was a deliberate, public emasculation. What stung most wasn't the insult itself, but the sheer contrast with reality. While she was busy crafting cruel remarks, I was the one waking early to make breakfast, managing our investments, fixing the leaky faucet, remembering birthdays, planning vacations, and mediating conflicts with her family. I had given my all, yet she saw only my perceived shortcomings. This wasn't the first time she had made such remarks, but something about this moment felt different. Maybe it was the casual cruelty, or perhaps it was the realization that my efforts had become invisible, so taken for granted that she could only focus on what she felt was lacking. I finished grilling in silence. As I served the food, she barely acknowledged me, still engrossed in animated conversation. The neighbors, still chuckling at her joke, avoided my gaze. That night, while she slept soundly beside me, I lay awake, mentally listing everything I had done in just the past week. 3 loads of laundry, grocery shopping, organizing our tax documents, scheduling her doctor's appointment, fixing the sink. And what had she contributed? Criticism, complaints, sarcasm. Our marriage was profoundly unbalanced. I had carried us for so long that she had forgotten how to walk beside me. The weight of it all had become so expected, so invisible, until it was no longer enough for her. Morning came with a decision. I wouldn't argue with her over the joke. It would only lead to defensiveness. Instead, I would show her exactly what she had been taking for granted. It was time she learned what real stamina looked like. I made breakfast as usual, but as I set her plate down, something shifted within me. This would be the last time I carried this marriage alone. From now on, she would understand what it truly meant to be left wanting more. In the days that followed, I saw our marriage with new eyes. Each morning, I watched her scroll through social media while I made her coffee, exactly how she liked it, with 1 sugar and a splash of almond milk. She barely looked up to acknowledge me. "The lawn needs mowing," she mentioned one morning before heading to work. Not even a thank you for the breakfast I'd made. I began noticing the subtle ways she diminished me. At dinner with her colleagues, I told a story about renovating our home, work I had done entirely on my own. She interrupted, correcting insignificant details before taking over the conversation. "He gets confused about timelines," she laughed, giving my arm an affectionate pat that felt more patronizing than loving. That night, I overheard her on the phone with her sister. "He's hopeless at planning anything," she chuckled. "I have to manage everything important or it falls apart." The irony was suffocating. That very morning, I had spent 2 hours researching investment options for our retirement fund while she slept in. I reflected on our finances. Despite earning similar salaries, I handled the bills, mortgage payments, and savings. She contributed her share, yet I was the one ensuring everything was managed responsibly. When we needed new furniture or appliances, I researched options, compared prices, and arranged delivery. Yet, somehow, she had convinced herself that she was the organized one. Then came the breaking point. While browsing our neighborhood's community forum, I stumbled upon a post from 3 months ago. A neighbor had asked for help with childcare, and my wife had responded, "My husband could help. He's basically useless around the house anyway. Might as well put him to work." 17 laughing reactions. 3 comments praising her humor. I stared at the screen, numb. This wasn't just the barbecue. It was systematic, intentional. That evening, I ignored a call from my mother-in-law about planning the family reunion, something I had coordinated for the past 3 years. When my wife asked why I hadn't answered, I simply shrugged. "I thought you might want to handle it this time." Her brow furrowed. "But you always do it." "Exactly." She hesitated before muttering about how she'd just do it herself. Little did she know, this was just the beginning. The next morning, I didn't make her coffee. A small change, almost imperceptible, but the first step in showing her what my stamina was worth. Over the next few weeks, my disengagement unfolded gradually. No more picking up her dry cleaning. No more handling bill payments without discussion. No more preemptively solving every minor inconvenience in her life. She didn't notice at first. The first week, she complained about how complicated the coffee machine was. I simply nodded and kept eating my breakfast. When she realized her dry cleaning wasn't ready for an important meeting, I expressed mild sympathy but offered no solution. "The electricity bill is due tomorrow," she said one evening, expecting me to handle it as always. "Yes, it is," I replied without looking up. A pause. "Aren't you going to pay it? I thought you might want it this month. The login information is in our password manager." Her confusion turned to irritation. "But you always handle the bills. I don't even know how to access the account." "The password manager has everything you need," I said calmly. "I'm happy to show you how to log in, but I think it's important we both know how to manage our finances." She stormed off, muttering about my sudden attitude problem. That night, I heard her struggling with the payment portal, cursing under her breath. I resisted the urge to help. This was precisely the point. At work, I stopped bending my schedule to accommodate her needs. For years, I had been the one leaving early for repairmen, taking half days for deliveries, ensuring our household ran smoothly. But now, when the plumber needed someone home on Tuesday, I simply said I couldn't make it. The flicker of mild panic in her eyes when she realized she'd have to reschedule her precious lunch meeting was both satisfying and disheartening. The house began to reflect my quiet withdrawal. Laundry piled up, untouched. I washed only my own clothes. The refrigerator remained bare, no longer magically restocked. Calendar reminders for friends' birthdays went unacknowledged. When her best friend texted, asking why no gift had arrived, she shot me an accusatory glance. "I thought you ordered something." "No," I replied simply. "I didn't." 3 weeks into my silent rebellion, we received an invitation to another neighborhood gathering. My stomach tightened at the memory of the last one, but this time would be different. This time, I wouldn't carry the weight of maintaining our social appearance. I didn't remind her to bring the dessert she had promised. I didn't iron her favorite blouse or suggest accessories to match her outfit. I simply got myself ready and waited by the door. "Where's the wine we're supposed to bring?" she asked frantically, 10 minutes before we needed to leave. "I don't know," I answered honestly. "Did you buy some?" The realization that crossed her face was almost worth the embarrassment of arriving empty-handed. Almost. That night, as we drove home in silence, I felt the shift in our dynamic. It was uncomfortable for both of us, but necessary. The foundation of our marriage was shifting, and soon she would have no choice but to see just how much of our life together had been balanced on my shoulders alone. By the 4th week, the cracks were undeniable. The turning point came when our internet was disconnected in the middle of her important video conference. I was reading in the living room when she stormed out of her home office, face flushed with anger and embarrassment. "The internet is down. I'm in the middle of presenting to the entire department." Her accusation was laced with unspoken blame. I glanced up calmly. "Did you pay the bill this month?" "I think it was due last week." Her face shifted from confusion to indignation. "That's your job. You always handle the utilities." "I used to," I corrected gently. "But I thought we were sharing responsibilities now." She stared at me, momentarily speechless, before scrambling to pay the bill online. It was restored within hours, but the damage to her professional image had already been done. That evening, she finally confronted me. "What's going on with you lately? You're not acting like yourself." I set my book down. "Actually, I think I'm finally acting like myself. I'm just not acting like your assistant anymore." "My assistant?" she repeated, incredulous. "Is that how you see our marriage? How would you describe it?" I countered. "Because from where I stand, I've been handling nearly everything while you contribute criticism and jokes at my expense." Her expression shifted between shock and defensiveness. "That's not fair. I work just as hard as you do." "At your job, yes. But in this marriage? When was the last time you scheduled a repair, researched our insurance, or even bought groceries without me reminding you?" She opened her mouth to respond, then closed it again. Silence stretched between us, heavier than any argument. "And then there's the barbecue," I continued. My voice was steady, though my chest tightened. "You humiliated me in front of our neighbors, joking about my stamina while I've been carrying this marriage alone. It was just a joke, she murmured weakly. Was it? I asked. Because to me, it felt like the culmination of years of disrespect. And I'm tired of it. The following days solidified the new reality. Bills piled up, unopened. The fridge contained only condiments and a wilting head of lettuce. The laundry overflowed. I watched as she struggled to maintain her routine without my invisible support. One morning, she couldn't find a clean shirt and had to rush to an expensive boutique. Another day, she missed a deadline because no one had reminded her. The most revealing moment came when her parents confirmed their visit that weekend, a visit she had completely forgotten about. The panic in her eyes as she took in the messy house, the unprepared guest room, the lack of a meal plan was almost painful to witness. Why didn't you remind me they were coming? She demanded. Why would that be my responsibility? I countered. That night, I found her at the kitchen table, surrounded by unpaid bills, calendar notifications, and hastily scrawled to-do lists. She looked up, dark circles under her eyes. I didn't realize, she started, then faltered. Didn't realize what? I prompted. How much you actually do. How much you've always done. Her voice was quiet, lacking its usual confidence. It wasn't an apology, but it was a start. The weekend was a masterclass in consequences. She scrambled to clean, cook, and prepare. By Friday evening, she looked exhausted. Her parents noticed immediately. Is everything all right between you two? Her mother asked. We're adjusting some dynamics, I said with a small smile. The most telling moment came when her father asked about our retirement planning. She hesitated, then fumbled through a vague response before finally looking at me. Perhaps you should ask him, she admitted. He handles all of that. Actually, I said, we've been transitioning to shared management. I'm sure she can fill you in on the details. The silence that followed was deafening. After her parents left, she collapsed onto the couch. That was horrible, she admitted. They definitely noticed something was wrong. Are we having problems? I asked simply. She looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in years. I don't know. Are we? Before I could answer, her phone chimed. She read the message, her face paling. It's from next door. They're having an impromptu gathering tonight. She hesitated. Are we going? Do you want to? Not really, she admitted. But we should probably make an appearance. The gathering was small, but I noticed immediately how she stayed close to me, none of her usual social butterfly behavior in evidence. When someone asked about our home renovations, she deferred to me instead of talking over me. Then came the moment I hadn't anticipated. A neighbor, glass of wine in hand, grinned at her. So, has his stamina improved since the last barbecue? The room fell silent. Her face flushed deeply, and for a second, I thought she might cry. Instead, she straightened her shoulders. Actually, she said, her voice uncharacteristically humble, I've been learning a lot about stamina lately. Turns out, I've been taking his for granted for a very long time. The neighbor looked puzzled, clearly anticipating a different response. My wife continued, her tone unexpectedly soft. He's been carrying so much more than I realized. I'm the one who needs to work on my stamina. She reached for my hand then, a gesture so sincere it caught me off guard. The conversation shifted awkwardly to other topics, but something fundamental had shifted between us. On the short walk home, neither of us spoke. The night air was cool, filled with the distant hum of crickets and the occasional burst of laughter from neighboring houses. As we reached our driveway, she stopped and turned toward me. I'm sorry, she said simply, her voice catching. I studied her, searching for pretense, but found none. It wasn't enough, not yet, but it was a start. The first real acknowledgement of the imbalance that had defined our marriage for years. The following week brought an unfamiliar tension to our home. Not the old, simmering resentment, but the awkward uncertainty of a relationship in transition. Her apology lingered between us, acknowledged but not yet fully absorbed. I remained steadfast in handling only my share of responsibilities, but I found myself watching her more closely, noting her uncertain, often clumsy attempts to bridge the gap I had left. One evening, I came home to find her at the dining table, surrounded by stacks of papers, her hair disheveled, glasses perched on her nose. She looked up, exhaustion etched in her features. I've been trying to organize our insurance policies, she admitted. I had no idea we had so many accounts or that they needed to be reviewed annually. I nodded, setting my keys down. I usually spend about 8 hours each quarter making sure everything's optimized and up to date. She stared at me, a mix of awe and guilt crossing her face. 8 hours. Every 3 months? And I never even noticed. That's just the insurance, I said quietly. There's also the investment portfolio, retirement planning, property taxes, home maintenance schedules. Stop, she whispered, raising a hand. Just stop. I get it. She pushed her chair back and stood. Can we talk? Really talk. We moved to the living room, sitting on opposite ends of the couch, close enough for intimacy, but with the space that acknowledged our current emotional distance. For a moment, silence stretched between us. I've been thinking about what you said, she finally began. About carrying this marriage alone. She exhaled slowly. At first, I was angry. It felt like an accusation, an exaggeration. She paused, then shook her head. But these past few weeks have been illuminating. I waited, giving her space to continue. I keep discovering things you handled that I didn't even realize needed handling. It's like I've been living in a house without ever seeing the foundation. And then to joke about your performance, when I wasn't carrying my weight at all. Why did you? I asked, the question that had haunted me since the barbecue. Why make that joke? She was quiet for a long moment. I think I was trying to establish some kind of superiority. To feel like I had power in our relationship when, deep down, I knew you were the one holding everything together. Her voice grew smaller. It's easier to mock someone than to admit how much you depend on them. Her honesty stunned me. I had expected defensiveness, deflection, minimization. Instead, she laid herself bare. I don't want a divorce, she continued. But I also don't want to keep living like this. I don't like who I've become in this marriage. And I hate that I took you for granted. I don't want a divorce either, I admitted. But I can't go back to being the only one investing in our life together. I don't want you to, she said firmly. I want us to be partners. Real partners. Tentatively, she reached across the couch, stopping just short of touching me. I want to learn everything you've been handling. I want to carry my share. It's not just about splitting tasks, I said. It's about respect, recognition, not making me the punchline to make yourself feel stronger. She nodded, eyes glistening. I know, and I'm truly sorry. That stops now, all of it. The disrespect, the taking you for granted, the public undermining. Finally, she took my hand. After a moment's hesitation, I let her. I want to be worthy of you. That night, we talked for hours, mapping out a new framework for our marriage, one built on genuine partnership and mutual respect. We set up shared calendars, established regular financial reviews, and divided household responsibilities. More importantly, we committed to weekly check-ins about our relationship itself. The change wasn't immediate or perfect. There were moments of backsliding, times when she assumed I would automatically handle something, times when I felt the familiar sting of resentment rising. But slowly, steadily, we transformed. 2 months later, we hosted our own barbecue. As I manned the grill, I overheard her speaking with the same neighbor who had witnessed her earlier joke. You know, she said, loud enough for me to hear. I never properly appreciated his stamina until recently. Turns out he's been carrying both of us for years, and I'm still playing catch-up. Our eyes met across the yard, and in that moment, I knew we would be okay. Not because she had affirmed me publicly, though that was healing, but because we were finally, truly sharing the weight of our life together. And in that balance, we had found an unexpected strength neither of us had ever known.